Good morning. This is Genty Grace, founder of Publisher Purpose, and I am sitting here with Hady, and we're talking about your new book today. I am so excited for this day because I'm always excited about a book launch, like that first thing. But your book is absolutely gorgeous and absolutely beautiful. And do you happen to have a copy like sitting on your desk that you can hold up?
I do.
Wasn't planned. Oh, Hady, let's just dive right in and have you just kind of share a little bit about you, a little bit about your background, and then we can go straight into all of the beauty of your book.
Okay, cool. So, hi, everybody. I'm Hady, pronouns she, her, ella. I'm based in New York. Let's see, I'm a Latina speaker. I'm an ERG coach and advisor, and I'm an author, and a very excited one at that. Yeah, and so I spent about 25 years in corporate, and I dish all the tea in the book. So you get to hear lots of my stories about my time in corporate and even a little bit about my time in nonprofit as well. I spent 5 years in nonprofit, and yeah, and you get to learn a little bit about my family, my culture, and it's called Calladita No More, my Latina journey and the lessons that shaped me. So you really get to learn a lot about, like who came into my life and how their role in my life impacted me.
If that's not a PSA to buy a book, is I dish all the tea. Like that seems to be like the perfect lead into go purchase the book. Is that you get all the tea? Like, who's gonna not want that?
I think some people might recognize themselves. I did not name names,
Yeah.
but I also didn't I don't want to say didn't sugarcoat it, but I also didn't like hide the details. So like I think if someone is like, boy, that sounds like me, it's like, yeah, if it sounds like you, it's probably is you.
All right, so there's a reader base alone of just be like, "Ooh, am I in the book?" I feel like that's one of those things as people who orbit authors, like family, friends, coworkers, colleagues that have like this anxiousness of like, "Uh-oh, she's writing a book. Like, could I possibly be in the book?" I think that is like an underlying like concern that a lot of people have.
Yeah, I definitely didn't name names. And the other thing I would say is I did write about some family members, but all of them are deceased. So I wrote about my mother, my father, and my sister. They've all passed. Obviously, my sister's children are still here. So, they'll, maybe that'll be new information for them
Yeah,
because I don't know if they would be familiar with the story. But
yeah.
yeah, I try to be mindful of that because it is, I don't know, that's personal. Some of these things that happen are personal, and
Mhm.
I don't want to put anybody on blast.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's such a kind of a process to making sure that, we're holding the space for your story and not telling other people's stories and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the lessons that shaped me is kind of like the key piece in your subtitle. So can you just share as a kind of a starting point, kind of the origin of why you wanted to put all of these lessons into a book for others to learn from?
Yeah, and I'll start by saying that I definitely don't consider it sort of like a blueprint that people
Mhm.
need to follow. Like I feel like I'm very clear at the start of the book that this is what these are the lessons that shape me. That you're when as you look at your life and you reflect on your journey, you may discover other lessons and or you might find that something that I learned just doesn't apply to you, and that's okay. You can take what works and what serves you and you can leave the rest. I just want to kind of put that out there because I don't want to assume that like I have, the blueprint
All
for
the
everybody. I don't have all the answers. Yeah, for sure I don't have them all. But I would say that, I had a very sort of pivotal moment a couple of years ago. I got laid off from a job in corporate that was like a really nice job. I was the head of equality at a major tech company, and I got laid off rather suddenly. And I decided to start my own business shortly after getting laid off and discovering that it was really hard. It was a tough market to try and find the job. So I decided I was going to start my own company. Boldly Speaking was born. I was doing a lot of speaking engagements, working with ERGs, doing a little bit of coaching of ERG leaders. And I was discovering that I kept kind of going back to my experiences to like say, and here's something I learned. Here's something I learned about like salary negotiations. Here's something I learned when it came maybe to promotions. Here's something I learned about how to advocate for yourself. Here's, et cetera. And so I said, boy, maybe it would be a good idea like to put all of this in a book and not just like that, because there's more to it than just the lessons. There's the stories behind it. There's the like making sure that the people I'm talking to understand that I know a lot of these things. They happen to me because of or as part of my lived experience. You know, I'm a Latina, I'm a woman of color, and I think that had a little bit to do with the my experience and the journey that I had. And so I wanted to kind of reach out to people that share my identity and make them feel that they are, you know, hopefully make them feel less alone, because it's like I know what you're going through because it happened to me, and here's how I dealt with those situations, and maybe this could help you too.
I love that so much. There's so many directions I want to go. Okay, so let's start with the who, right? So I feel like there's the obvious, perhaps, who this book is for, but maybe there's the less obvious of who this book is for. So can you just kind of share when you were writing it, you know, who that person you had in mind, and then subsequently kind of the ancillary people as well?
Yeah, I had two people in mind. So first was young Latinas and women of color, people starting their career journey, maybe anywhere between 0 to 10 years into their business career, or their, you know, whatever career they're in, technical, financial, their careers. And sort of in those early stages where they're still like trying to figure out, you know, kind of what their purpose is, what they're passionate about, what they're excited about, and also like how to show up. And, you know, you're not a thought leader when you graduate from college. You know, like it's kind of hard to be a thought leader that early on. It's kind of hard to be the subject matter expert. You know, oftentimes younger professionals are ignored. Like it's like people are like, well, you're still too kind of wet behind the ears to really contribute. And so oftentimes I know I found myself in some rooms, but I didn't speak because I had a lot of respect for the people around me. And I thought like, well, they've been around longer. Clearly they know more. And I think that was a little bit of a story I was telling myself, because I do think it is possible for young professionals to contribute in a meaningful way. You might not be the subject matter expert, you might not have 20 years of experience, but there still are really meaningful ways that young professionals can contribute to the conversation. So I want to like kind of arm these people with like, hey, be brave and go ahead and speak up. If you have an idea, say it. If someone invited you into that room, then they want to hear what you have to say. So say, if you're thinking something, don't be afraid to say it. Doesn't mean that it's going to be received well every time. It doesn't mean that you're going to have the best idea every time. You know, that's not realistic. But it does mean that maybe on occasion you might have a good idea, or you thought of something that someone else didn't think of, and you should contribute to the conversation in that way. And so that's definitely one target audience. Another audience is people that maybe are a little bit more experienced. Maybe they have 15, 20 years of experience. And I feel like those people probably are their mindset is like, nothing's going to change anyway. So let me just kind of do my work and be on my way. And I want to encourage those people that maybe they can make some choices that can improve the quality of their work life or even their personal lives. You know, they can still advocate for themselves wherever they find themselves. Usually once you learn the skill, you bring it to all aspects of your life. So if you can advocate for yourself at work, you can advocate for yourself at home, you can advocate for yourself with your doctor, your children, or wherever you find yourself. At least that was my experience. Once I learned the skill, I could apply it in a lot of places, but I didn't have that skill for a really long time. And I also, you know, to some degree was like, well, it doesn't matter anyway. And it's like, that's not a good way to live, because you're in your 30s or 40s. You still got a long life ahead of you. So you might as well live the life you want. And I encourage my readers to live the life they want. I'm like, you got choices. You always have choices. And you are in the driver's seat of your life. So act like it and own it and be brave. So those are my two. And then I would say anybody who loves us, anybody who is in our sphere, whether you work with us, you live with us, you know us, we're your neighbor, we are, you know, you interact with us in some way. I would love for other people to also read the book, because I feel like you're going to learn a lot about what it feels like to walk in the shoes of a Latina or a woman of color. And that's important for, you know, if you're working with us or you're in our sphere or circle, it's nice for you to understand us a little bit better. And I feel like I gave stories that I think are very representative of our community, because I talk to Latinas all the time. I'm the director of programs for Leading Latinas. I do a show called Latinas Front and Center. So I'm always around Latinas. And a lot of what's in my book is what people tell me. So it's like, check. I included that. I got that in the book. I remember once having a conversation with a woman and she was like telling me, and I was like, did you read my book? Because you just said everything about my book and everything you just said. And so I feel like, to me, is like, that doesn't make me feel upset. Like, it's like, oh, well, why did I write the book if everybody already knows? But it's like, not everybody knows. We know because we live the experience, but everybody doesn't know that that's our experience.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of validation in that, right? Because like if you're
1,000%.
mirroring back these different pieces, like maybe you wrote 15 of these things and one person's mirroring back one, they might not know the other 14, or the next person might not know 10.
1,000%.
Something beautiful about creating that kind of bigger ecosystem of that common shared language and understanding among all of your readers.
Yeah.
I love that so much. So if you were to, like, you know, because at this phase, at the time of this recording, your book is still in pre-order status, which is super exciting because your book is official on September 15th. So if we were to just wave a wand and now we are 3 months past September 15th, and you have readers who are coming to you and sharing some way that the book has impacted them, like what's your hope that you're hearing from people?
I want people definitely to feel less alone. So I want them to, be reassured that it's like, yes, been there, done that. There's a lot of us that have been there, and you're not alone in this experience. And also there's an opportunity for you to learn from like our experience. So hopefully it lessens the degree to which you experience microaggressions in the workplace, or the degree to which you experience frustrations in the workplace. Like, there were a lot of times where I was overlooked for promotion. I don't want anybody to have to experience that. Yeah. And so hopefully the tactics and the strategies that I use to like not allow that to happen to me again, I hope that people learn from that and just start implementing it right away. So that's my hope. Number one is that they feel less alone, that they can put to practice some of these strategies is number two. And I would say number three, I use these things that are called refranes in the book. And the refranes, that's a Spanish word. So in English, they're like sayings. And it's like, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, or, something like that. Like, hungry, what is it? Closed mouths don't get fed, little things like that. So those are quite popular in the Latino community. That, like, you kind of hear everybody talk like that could come up in any conversation at any time, especially by like the older generation. And I feel like that was something that I didn't always realize, that those lessons and those little nuggets of wisdom were impacting how I showed up. And so I want to encourage my readers to also reflect on how those little nuggets and how, things that they have received from their family, from grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, whomever, that maybe that's also influencing how they show up, hopefully in like a really good way, but like give my readers an opportunity to reflect on that.
Yeah. And I love that because, there has to be when we were talking before, you were saying that like, it's kind of something that like you noticed when you were like in the writing process of it, that you were kind of reflecting back to some of those nuggets, as you just said. And so is that kind of one of your, thoughts and hopes? Because like, as someone who, especially as that kind of third audience that you talked about, of someone who is working with Latina professionals or working, or colleagues or clients or whomever, who may not have that lived experience, is that kind of where you started to recognize that pattern when you were kind of doing it yourself in the book?
Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to use refranes, but I don't think I always understood why. Like, I just have always had an affinity for refranes. And I have very vivid memories of my mom teaching me refranes and us like sitting around the living room table. And I remember when I was a little kid, I must have been like 10 years old. I bought a book of refranes, and it had the English, like the Spanish refrán, the refrán in Spanish on one side. And then on the other side, it had like the English translation. And so that's how I learned about refranes. And I remember like asking, playing the game with my mom and be like, what does this mean? And she was like, this means that. And I was like, okay, she knew what it meant. And I would do the same thing with my dad, and my dad didn't know. So my dad was like, well, it means this. And I'm like, no, that's not what it means. And I like that. I just have that like very vivid memory of, as a family, us talking about refranes and how, so they were really special. That's like a very like poignant childhood memory that I have. And so I knew I wanted to include them, but like, as I was writing the book, I'm like, I talk about explicitly in the book how my parents didn't go to college. My mother didn't even know how to drive. She didn't have a credit card. She never had a bank account. Like, they didn't have these things. They were very old school. And but they passed these things down to me that I still today use. And these refranes, like, they shape and guide how I interact with the world. And so, you know, maybe they didn't have degrees, but they had other ways to really provide this guidance and direction and help me to make good choices. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to, so I discovered that in a very clear way. And I'm like, I hope that my readers like have an opportunity to reflect on that as well.
And I love that because it's also bringing in their legacies into your work, right? Because they're both
Yeah.
passed. And so like there's this really beautiful way that kind of and now you're passing that down to, you know, maybe nieces or nephews in your own space, but also to other people's, you know,
Yeah.
other people, other families, other communities. And I think there's something really cool about something that is so simple in one way and then also so profound in another way. That, like, that's the beauty of a book, is that like you're now putting your family, your culture, heritage in the hands of other people to consume and see your lived experience. And there's something really
Yeah.
just beautiful and impactful about all of that.
And scary.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget scary.
Yeah. Minor little detail.
Yeah, but I'm really excited about it. And everybody loves a good refrán. I'm telling you, they're kind of a little bit addicting. Like, once you kind of go down that rabbit hole. And it was fun because I had to first think of the lessons, then pair the refrán to the lesson.
Oh, yeah.
And that was not that easy. It's not as easy as it sounds, because as I was sort of in the early stages, I made a list of stories that I wanted to include, and I made a list of refranes that I wanted to include, but there was not a one-to-one correlation there. So then I needed to like fudge my way through that, and that took a little bit of work, but I think I ended up in a place where I'm happy, and I've gotten some good feedback so far from some of my early readers. Yeah.
And this is like one of those like behind the scenes moments for someone who may be watching this conversation and like, oh, maybe they're thinking about writing a book or doing something with a book later themselves. Like how you have to be so intentional about, I want to tell these stories, I want to include these things, but yet there's not, like, sometimes things just don't line up. And so it does take a lot of work and effort to make sure that, you know, you are intentional about how everything aligns.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it ended up in a good place. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, which is amazing. And so far we've been talking about kind of a lot of intentionality in terms of the writing, the stories that you're sharing, the expressions that you're using, the people you're trying to reach, the impact that we want to have on those people. I want to just go even a little more micro and macro at the same time and talk about how important it was for you to be working with the Latina community and women in the construction and publishing of the book itself, because I feel like that was such a cool, you were so clear from the jump that this was important to you and really succeeded at aligning all of those things.
Yeah. I think I'm a creature of intentionality, but I don't realize it. But like, looking back, yes, I do feel like I was very intentional. And this was my first official solo book. You know, I've been part of other book projects, but so I didn't really know how to do this, but I kind of had an idea in my head of what I wanted. And, you know, I feel very grateful that it worked out. So, you know, to your point, I was very clear in my head that I wanted Latina editors to work with me. So, you know, I sought them out, and I want to give a shout out to the community of Latina authors that came before me, because they were the ones that gave me the names, and they said, hey, here's this Latina developmental editor that you can work with. Here's another one. She's a copy editor. So I ended up finding both, you know, working with both for both aspects of the editing process. I wanted a Latina illustrator, and I didn't even know what that meant, or like, I think definitely there's a big learning curve in this whole book journey, but I didn't even know what that meant. But I knew that I wanted someone who understood or like was part of the community to be involved in the process. And that ended up being like a whole learning process in and of itself. I think you're familiar with what I went through, and we ended up in such a phenomenal place. And I'm so grateful for that. But it was not as straightforward and as easy as I thought it was going to be. I'll kind of describe it that way. So like, I'm glad, excuse me, that I started and wanted a Latina illustrator. And I think I ended up in the absolute best place, but it was a little bit of a journey to get to where, to that final destination. And then I had like when I knew that had to pick people to be early readers and endorse the book,
Mhm.
I mostly sought out Latinas and women of color. That's who I sought out, with one exception, but not exactly. So many of your, I guess, audience is probably familiar with Jennifer Brown, and Jennifer Brown is this amazing person in the DEI space and someone that I really admire and like look up to. And she also happens to identify as a queer person. And for me, it was like, I'm gonna have women, queer, people of color, Latinas, like that was the audience that I wanted, because that is like who I work with the most. I work with underestimated people. These are the voices that are usually not heard, these are the voices that are silenced. And I'm like, no, those are the voices that I'm going to elevate. So I sought every single opportunity to do that. And so anyway, so I'm so happy. Like 9 out of 11 of my people who endorse my book are Latinas, but all 11 are women.
Mhm.
And so that's a big thumbs up. Yeah, and then like, my marketing coach is a Latina, my street team coordinator is a Latina, my media manager is a Latina, my business strategy coach is Latina. So I'm like, hey, why not? Like, the expertise is there. We're going after the same market. We know ourselves the best. Why would it makes perfect sense that that's who I would be working with. And so
Yeah.
much like PYP, my purpose and mission is to also lift up underrepresented voices. And so that's what I try to do in this book project, was to do that.
And what I love the most about this is that we have that power as individual people. We have that control as individual people to make those strategic decisions, to work with who we want to work with and elevate the voices that we want to elevate. And I think that how you just described kind of that coordination of everything really just shows, because you are one single person, right? But yet the construction of this book touched so many other people. And that's not even talking about the readers yet. And so there's something really beautiful and profound about that, because I think a lot of times we're living in the society that's like, oh, you have to do it this way. You have to work with this type of person. You have to do this type of thing. And it's like, no, none of that. None of
Yeah,
that.
I don't want to. But I think that's what you and I have in common. We're like, no, that's okay. I mean, and the truth is, no one's going to give us permission to do that except for ourselves. So it's like, yes, it is contrarian. Yes, it is not how it's usually done. And that doesn't mean that you still can't do it that way. And, hopefully put out a book that the world needs and really loves. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And
I
can you
feel
show
like we got to do it. We got to make that choice. I'm
we
sorry. I
do.
didn't mean to cut you off.
No. We absolutely do. Like, I feel like it's our responsibility in a large way, that like it is our jobs to do that. And I was going to say, can you show your book up again, especially as you were talking about kind of the illustration project, that process. Yeah, and I just love I love bringing books to life, number one, but it was uniquely special in being able to see like the sketches that the illustrator was putting
I know
forward
you
first,
did. You saw it
to then
all.
like yeah, to know what we were starting with to versus like what you picked as the final. There's something really cool about that arc and that evolution as well, because I think your book is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. I love a lot of things about it. I love how she's looking into the future type of thing. Like, she's not looking at you. She's just like, she's
Mhm,
focused on what she needs and like what she
mhm,
is aiming towards. I love that she has like a little bit of an exposed shoulder
mhm,
here, because to me that feels like she's exposed, but she's brave. Like she's taking a risk, and that's okay. And yeah, and I love like the little details, like her earrings. I love her red pouty lips and
mhm.
her little hair. That little piece of hair reminds me of like my little stragglers from time to time. But yeah, it's she's beautiful. I fell in love with her. She's just something really
Mhm.
magical. So I'm quite happy with how that ended up.
And it's so great to like have a book that you're in love with, because I think that when you're in love with what you've produced, it makes it so much easier to bring other people along in that journey and that ride to also be impacted by that work. And one more thing that I want to bring up, because again, your book launch is actually 2 weeks from now, at least the time that we're recording this, is that you will also have an audiobook available, which is super
Yes.
exciting. So can you talk about your audiobook a little bit? Because I am like, obviously, I can't wait to like hold and see and feel the beauty, but I also can't wait to like hear your voice reading it to me. That is my personal preference. So I'm
Okay.
excited.
Well, I'm not an audiobook person, so I personally don't listen to a lot of audiobooks. Although I did, the one book that I thought I was gonna I was gonna listen to was a Barack Obama book, and I think that was a big mistake.
Uh-huh.
Like he's pretty long-winded as it turns out. So that was not a fun book to listen to necessarily. But anyway, I digress. All right. So back to my book. I would say one thing that I think makes the audiobook really special is that I wrote the book the way I talk.
Mhm.
So and not that it's like super unique, but like yeah, it's there's slang, there's just like
You
it's a
being
little
you.
bit. Say that again.
It's you being you.
Yeah, me being me. So I feel like I wrote it how I talk. So then when it was time to read it out loud, it was like perfect. Like it was like, yep, I this is exactly how I meant for it to be heard. And it was a really fun process. I actually did it from home. So that part was cool that I got to do it in my own home. I didn't have to go into a studio.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, I'm just really excited. It ended up really good. I listened to it like the other day to kind of officially sign off. And I was like doing dishes, walking around the house, listening to it. And I'm like, damn, that's good. Like I
Hey,
was like, yeah, I was like, okay, I can get behind this.
oh, I love that so much. And one of the other cool things is that while the audiobook is not out yet, we're in pre-order. People can go to your website, they can get your bougie book bundle, which is I love that it's the bougie book bundle. And once the pre-order, like if someone happens to be catching this after the fact, like they can still go to your website and still order from your website.
Yep.
Is that even in your pre-launch phase, your book is already a top new release and ranking number 4 in the bestseller list. So the fact that it's like not even out yet and you're already at that place, I feel like is such a huge testament to how much this book is needed in the world right now.
Thank
So
you. I'm really excited about it. And I have my book launch party coming up in a few weeks. And I think that might be the day where this all kind of hits me. So who knows like what that's gonna feel like. But I'm really just like I'm so used to like guarding myself and being cautiously optimistic that I'm not really allowing myself to like what you said. It's like it's the top new release. Like and it's been like that for like almost a week now. And I'm like, is that true? Like
yeah.
and I keep going to Amazon. I'm like, yeah, it is true. Like there it is. So that's it's a blessing. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to the community of people that are supporting me, and I'm really grateful for everyone that was part of the process. Everyone from my book coach, Stacy, all the way to Jen, you and your team, and Catherine, who've been such great partners in the publishing process, and just like the street team, and the people who endorsed the book, and even like my friends and family who just got sick of hearing me listen and looking at sketches and picking colors. My niece knows what I'm talking about. Poor girl, she had to. I was like, and what do you think about the color of her earring? And should her lip like face this direction or be down, looking down? Everybody played a role. Everybody did their part, and I'm grateful to everybody
Yeah.
who showed up for me.
Me too. I'm so excited that the day is finally here. It's like such a, and like, knowing that your launch is just, like the launch parties are coming up, like there's something so beautiful about that. And what I also want to just say is that I know that you have, personal connections to independent bookstores, is that, I am always in full favor of supporting your local independent bookstore where you can.
Yes.
Go into any local bookstore and say, I want to order Hady's book, and they will be able to order it for you. Encourage them to stock it on their shelves, perhaps. And if you don't happen to be in an area where maybe there's not a bookstore nearby, you can go to bookshop.org and you can get it there, which also supports local independent bookstores.
Amen. And I actually have 3 book events. I'll just say them real quick. I have one by me at a bookstore called Stanza. All of these are independent bookstores. So Stanza Books in Beacon, New York. I'm doing another event in Philly at Julia de Burgos Books. And that's an independent bookstore there. And then I'm going to be in Brooklyn, which is where I'm from. So hello, Brooklyn. I'm going to be at Café con Libros, and that's another bookstore. So y'all can all buy those bookstores are definitely going to carry it, but there's a lot of others, including some virtual ones that they're independent, and I'm sure they would appreciate your support.
Yeah, and most bookstores have online, online functionality. So, like pick any one of those 3 if you don't have one nearby, or try to find, some kind of bookstore that is owned by someone that you want to support, and order it on their website. It's as simple as that. And then is your book tour, are those dates available on your website?
Yes, I have a website called calladitanomore.com. It's the name of spelled the same way as my book. And I'm the web administrator. So I am like perpetually updating that poor page is like the Wix is sick of hearing of us. They're sick of me already, but I update my website every day, sometimes several times a day, but I keep it very fresh, very updated. Any features that I have, any additional, like events that I have. And I also have an Instagram account called Calladita No More Book. And that also is like the latest is always available on my Instagram as well.
Perfect. All right. Amazing. And I have no doubt that you are going to be doing other events in other locations at other points in time. So
I'm trying to be in Puerto Rico, so pray for me.
Yeah, maybe there's someone watching this who has some kind of connection to a bookstore in Puerto Rico that you can make happen. So
yes,
contact them. Amazing. Thank you so much, Hady. I'm just so excited that like we are at this phase and you have so much good work already planned, and who knows what is also planned. So I'm just super excited for everything that's still to come.
Yes. Amen. Me too.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everybody. Go purchase Hady's book, support the launch in whatever way you can.